Hi, Haley. I hope that you're doing well. All right, so last week we talked about a couple new chord types, right? We already knew about the existence of major and minor chords, our happy chords and our sad chords, right? But we also talked about diminished chords and augmented chords. Now, as a reminder, our diminished chords can be used as a means of tension that leads you back to release, right? We spoke about the idea of a lot of music relating to tense moments and then the release of those tense moments. Diminished chords will help you get there. Diminished chords have a quality to them that sound eerie and spooky, like you really shouldn't be standing in one spot for too long, right? And then our augmented chords are also used in a similar way. They also offer a sort of tension, but it's not quite spooky or eerie. It's almost mysterious. Like, oh, what just happened? What's about to happen? Where is this about to lead to? It's an interesting sound. We were listening to that Magdalena bass song and we heard them use it sort of as like the punctuation to their sentence, but then also a cool break to get you back to your topic at hand, right? But today, I wanted to double back and talk about some of these shapes on our guitar. More importantly, I sort of want to introduce you to new ways to play the chords that we have, or rather, how those shapes that we know are going to lead to us being able to play more chords. So, for instance, let's take a look at our E major shape, right? Remember, in our second fret, we're going to take our two middle fingers and they're going to be on our on our A string and on our D string. Then our pointer finger would be in the first fret on our G string. If we make this shape and we strum all of our strings, we get our E major chord, right? If you do that same shape, but you lift your pointer finger, all of a sudden, we have an E minor chord. If you take our E major shape and you move all of our fingers down a string, so now we're on our D string and our G string in the second fret, and we're on the B string with our first finger. If you take this shape and you strum all of your strings except for your low E string, your string number 6, all of a sudden we have an A minor chord. Now, there's these really cool things on the guitar that we have called bar chords. And our bar chords are essentially a means to maintain the shapes that we already know, but make them into different chords, change up the letters, so to speak. So that E major, E minor, or A minor shape are just that. They're shapes. And we can actually move them around on the fretboard to make them make sense. So, for example, I'm going to go back to our E major chord here. Because the fretboard is chromatic, right? We know that. Every time we move up a fret, we're moving up a half step. Well, if we take just this shape and we move it all up, in theory, it should just give us the next chord, right? The next major sounding chord. Oh, okay. That sounds really cool, but that's not quite the same. Like it has a different flavor to it. So what are we missing? Well, you see, we've only moved up a couple of our notes a half step. Pretty much only the notes that we have fretted have moved up. But our B string, our top E string, and our low E string have not moved at all. So how would we get them to move? Well, that's where the bar chord comes in. So we're going to take our pointer finger And we're going to essentially fret all of our strings. And what this does is it moves up the other notes that we did not move up a half step. But this presents a weird predicament. If we're using our first finger here, how are we going to use our first finger for our E major shape? Well, we would just assign it to our remaining fingers. So now our middle finger is going to act as our first finger was in the second fret on our G string, and our ring finger and pinky will take the place of our two middle fingers from before. So now, here's our E major. If we bar it, we now have our F major. Ah, we have movable shapes. So that works all up the neck, all because we have pinched off the end of our neck. We've essentially, our bar becomes the new end of the guitar. It's pretty cool. But you can do that with your other shapes too. Like our E minor. If we do that same thing, all of a sudden we have an F minor, F sharp minor, G minor, A flat minor, A minor. We'll keep going like that. Same thing with our A minor shape down here, right? We can bar off everything. And since we don't need to use our low E string for that A minor shape initially, we don't have to bar that one either. But same thing. B flat minor, B minor, C minor, C sharp minor, D minor. So this week, and I'm going to warn you now, barring is a whole process. And a lot of people, I say a lot of people end up like not continuing guitar after getting the bar chords just because it's like notoriously a really strange thing. But a couple tips that will help. Do not be afraid to get your wrist and your elbow involved. If you have to put your finger at sort of an angle in order to get everything, that's completely fine. It's going to be strange, but you want to have a good amount of pressure in your thumb as well. A good counterbalance between your thumb and your pointer finger. For this week, you could even take it up to the 7th fret and just try barring all of those strings. Oftentimes what will happen whenever you bar is you'll go and you'll think you have all of them pressed down, but you might get something like this, where these two are great, and that all of a sudden these other strings up here aren't ringing quite right. It's just a matter of making sure that you're covering all the strings and making sure that all of them are touching the fretboard. It doesn't take like immense pressure, but it might take more than you are used to at this moment. But yeah, just work on getting that bar down. And check every single string to make sure that all of them are being pressed. Alrighty. I hope that you have a wonderful week, Hailey. I'll see you next time.